Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mugwump Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Photon bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley. This is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start. Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am your head-banging host, Dayton Johnson. We're getting our thrash on and jumping into the pit. Allow me to introduce the Metal Militia. His beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder. It is Eric Brock. How's it going?
We're burning daylight. Let's go. got a lot to say.
The guy who showed up late. I love it.
Right? All right. He routinely picks the shortest straw. It is John Wright. How's it going, John?
It's going, guys. How about you?
Well, apparently we're not moving fast enough for Eric. So anyway, he's hanging on to his frayed ends of sanity. It is Tim Brown. How's it going?
I am happy to be here. If you hear any whimpering in the background tonight, it's because I recently had surgery on my hand and I keep touching things with it. but I'm looking forward to this one.
You know, they say you go blind if you keep that there. Never mind.
Yeah. Your hair turns purple too.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we are discussing the album And Justice for All from Metallica. So first, let's hit some history we have with this album. So let's start with Eric. You know, any history when and where you heard it for the first time, and were you like me and kept waiting for it to be released?
I don't remember. It's that was 75 years ago or something like that. So I remember all of us rushing home for the premiere of the one video.
Yeah, I remember that.
When it was going to do that, but I don't remember. I mean, I was already into them by then, so I'm sure I got it, right when it came out, but I don't remember.
All right. How about you, John?
Again, this is another one that you more than likely introduced me to.
And you're welcome.
Because as I've said numerous times, I had a very selective and a very, narrow musical genre that I tend to cling to, and didn't really branch out from that too much until college. I mean, I was always a metalhead, but it wasn't really into stuff like this. And yeah, like Eric, I remember the big news when the guys eventually sold out and appeared on a video on MTV, and and the big news that made, it was how MTV was playing the longest video they've ever played in their life and all this stuff. So
yeah,
yeah.
All right, Tim, how about you?
The summer after I graduated high school in '88, I remember I knew you from working at McDonald's.
Yep.
And I knew you were a Metallica fan, so I had heard Metallica, but I wasn't really into them yet. But we went to, me and another buddy, Mr. Brock will remember, Mr. Paul Higginbotham. He and I ventured out to the Hoosier Dome and saw the Van Halen Monsters of Rock tour with Metallica, and that was the first time I'd ever seen them live, and we were both like, that was pretty awesome. And they played Harvester of Sorrow, but the album hadn't dropped just yet.
Right.
I think we went and saw them in either June or July, and the album dropped in August.
Right.
So they were like, this is going to be on our new album. And everybody was like, ooh, well, I guess we're going to have to look that up.
All right. So in 87 and 88, I was in the thick of my Metallica fandom. So I have quite a few stories that I'm going to be very quick about. So first of all, if I mentioned it before, I apologize, but December prior to this album being released, I was in California visiting family, and my brother talked me into going to Berkeley and walking around the campus and going in the record stores, whatever. And we walk into the record store, and there flipping through CDs was Kirk Hammett. And of course, I about, freak out. And, my brother just calmly goes, strange things happen around here. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So here I am, decked out with my Metallica jean jacket. And I walk over after like 5-10 minutes of, trying to debate. And I just walk up and say, excuse me, big fan. And he turned around, smiled, and we talked for a while. He was picking up a Jimi Hendrix CD, by the way. Thought that was kind of cool. And I remember I even asked him then about the next album because they did the 598 EP. And he was like, we're kind of working on it. I'm like, okay. He was not very forthcoming, which I understand. So I spent the next 8-9 months going to Record Bar at least once a month, asking about when it was coming out. And they never seemed to know, but I kept going back. And I remember finding out the day it was coming out on the way home from school. We stopped at the Record Bar at Tri-County Mall and I picked up my copy and drove home with friends. That was the first time I listened to the album, was on the way home from school. They came in concert that November, and Tim was with me as long as Timber was there with us too. I bought every single concert T-shirt they had. There was 6 of them. I bought them all, and the tour book. I wore a Metallica T-shirt either to work underneath my uniform or underneath my school shirt every day for at least 6 months. So much so that even at my prom, I wore one underneath my tuxedo that the vice principal even asked. He said, is that a Metallica shirt underneath your tux? I said, yes, it is. So,
and it's never been confirmed, but I'm told he even washed them once or twice.
Yeah. After a while, you just, they just stood up on their own. It was pretty cool. We did meet Kirk and Lars and Jeff Tate, as a matter of fact, that November show. Tim and I were standing in the rain and waited for him. That was a lot of fun. Yes. My senior quote on my yearbook was the spoken word part of To Live Is to Die. So yes, big Metallica freak here. So there we go. All right. Let's go ahead and hit some quick 3 takeaways about the album. John, you get to go first.
3 takeaways. Underwhelming production. Proof that Kirk doesn't always have to use a wah on a couple of the solos. And I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm going to kind of jump the gun a little bit. I kind of feel like this album needed more time to cook.
Interesting.
Yeah. We'll get into that as we get into more into the discussion.
All right. How about you, Tim?
First, Lars was apparently a big fan of the fade in intro at this point, because there's a lot of them on this album. And second, this is going to sound like a slam, but I don't quite think of it that way. But there's a term in the YouTuber guitar verse, riff salad, where someone may be a great performer or a technician on the instrument, but they can't write a cohesive song and they just throw a bunch of riffs together into riff salad. And there's some cases of this, I think, but the riffs are killer, so it's not as much of a detriment as it would be for some other people. Finally, third, this album and seeing them on the Van Halen Monsters of Rock tour in 1988 is what made me a fan.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Eric.
Well, buckle up, boys, because my thoughts on this album have evidently changed over the years. I remember thinking this album was fantastic, and upon recent listening sessions for this, I've come to the conclusion that it's just a good album. It's been mentioned often over the years, but the mix is absolutely terrible. The drums, especially the snares, sound awful. And the guitars don't really sound any better, and nobody knows what the bass sounds like because they never recorded any on this album, evidently. So, but listening to this album on a good system, which I consider my home system good, it almost gives you like ear fatigue because the mix is just so bad. Yeah. And it does nothing to dispel the truth that Lars is just a bad drummer. Megadeth has had what, 25 drummers, and they're all
72.
Yeah, they're all better than Lars. If not for his lousy sense of time, you'd think he was one of those cheap little drum machines from the 80s, but his time's too bad to be a drum machine. But just uninspired drumming, I think. I would love to hear this album made with a different drummer. And as I get older, maybe knowing this is going to piss some people off, I wouldn't mind maybe hearing it with a different singer too. At this point in my life, James' whole style of the all that shit, it just gets on my nerves after a while. I saw him twice.
This was before somebody had convinced James that he could actually sing and not just scream in a microphone.
I saw him twice on this tour, and I saw him on the Monsters of Rock show you were talking about too. So, and I remember loving it then. So evidently over the years, something has changed.
Well, I think it's you, because it's the same album. It was
I'm sure it was me.
Tim, why don't you and I just go on mute and we'll let these two guys duke it out?
Jesus Christ.
Place your bets.
Well, it's no surprise I almost completely disagree with everything Eric just said. But I will admit that yes, there is definitely there is no bass track that you can really hear. But the funny part about that was I still managed to blow a speaker in my car playing this album. Personally, I enjoy the variety of songwriting on this album. I think they take a lot of chances and innovative from time to time, so I really enjoy it. It's a tonally darker album than the previous ones as far as the subject matter. And Harvester of Sorrow is a sneak peek at the Black Album. It's very, it's kind of telling us this is where we're going. And I definitely don't have the hate. I wonder if Lars, touched you inappropriately, Eric. Sometime that's why you hate him.
I don't hate the album. I don't hate Metallica.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Lars is not a good drummer.
Well, I don't think that's fair. He's not. He's definitely not in the top 20 or whatever. But I don't think it's fair to. I mean, even listening to this, I was like, I thought there were some great riffs, some really good choices in there that he put in.
The songwriting is fine. I mean, we'll get to the songs. I'm just saying
I'm talking about his drums. I actually thought a lot of the choices.
Lars he's not the best drummer in Metallica. We'll get to it.
I mostly agree with Eric on that. I never thought Lars was a great drummer. He's a fast drummer, but that's about all I can say positive of him.
I will help Dayton out ever so slightly, just ever so slightly. He was a better drummer then than he is now.
See, I disagree.
I think he played then than he does now. Now it seems like he doesn't rehearse at all. Back then it seems like he rehearsed a little bit. Again, just my take.
All right. See,
I know he's your drum. I know he's one of your drum gods.
No, okay. See, now,
cool.
no, wait a minute.
That's cool.
Yes, it was when I was in high school. I didn't know any better, but I can listen to a drummer and know that he's, competent. I never said he was great. I just find it amusing that it seems every time we cover a Metallica album, one of the things Jason says is that he's not even the best drummer in the band. I'm just like, okay, whatever. I just don't see it that way. I will definitely don't agree that he's in the top 7 or top 10 or whatever. That's just not accurate. But the reality of it is, if it wasn't for Lars in this band, there would be no Metallica. We wouldn't have this conversation. James would never have formed a band.
For sure.
Yeah. The world would be less. So I look at it that way.
I'll make this comparison, and again, I'll stick up for the little Danish guy. Lars is to drums kind of what Ace Frehley is to guitar. Neither one of them are.
Like dare you?
No. Ace, Eric, you will admit.
I get it. No,
Ace is a very sloppy player.
Oh, he's horrible.
He does not practice. He's lazy, but he's an inspiration for millions of people. And it's the same goes for Lars. It's not a knock. It's just stating my opinion,
Inspiration to what not to do.
Now,
and we're moving on to production facts.
Dave's going to be pissed.
He already is.
I'm still mad at you about your comments on my top 7 90s albums.
I just think it's amusing that you got so frustrated you didn't even call him Eric. You called him Jason.
I know. I caught that too.
Did he?
Did I really?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you used the middle name. You're in deep shit.
Wow. Trippy. All right, cool. So production facts, released August 25th, 1988, recorded at One on One Studios in Los Angeles from January to May of 1988. Produced by Fleming Rasmussen, James Hetfield, and Lars Ulrich, with a runtime of 65 minutes and 24 seconds. Singles off the album: Harvester of Sorrow was released August 28th. Eye of the Beholder was released on Halloween of 88. And One was released January 10th of 89. The album received critical acclaim. Rolling Stone magazine said, "A marvel of precisely channeled aggression." I kind of like that quote. Spin magazine called it a gem of a double album with edgy and technically proficient music. Simon Reynolds from The Melody Maker found the album's densely complicated style of metal to be distinct from the monotonous sound of contemporary rock music. Quote, "Everything depends on utter punctuality and the supreme surgical finesse. It's probably the most incisive music I've ever heard in the literal sense of the word." In the Village Voice's annual Paz and Jop Critics poll, yes, that's what it says, it was voted the 39th best album of 1988. The album was ranked number 9 on IGN's top 25 metal albums. Guitar World lists it at 12th on the 100 greatest guitar albums from a poll in 2006. And it also lists all the tracks from the album as the 100 greatest Metallica songs of all time. Kerrang listed the album at number 42 among the 100 greatest heavy metal albums of all time. Martin Popoff ranks it number 19 in his book, The Top 500 Heavy Metal Albums of All Time. And it is featured on Robert Dimery's 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. In 2017, Rolling Stone ranked it 21st on its 100 greatest metal albums of all time as well. So a lot of accolades there for it. Rasmussen was not available initially, so they hired Mike Klink to produce. He was hired on the strength of his production work on Appetite for Destruction. Things fell apart rather quickly. The band was unhappy with the sound Klink was getting. Hetfield called the experience problematic. 3 weeks in, Rasmussen became available, and Klink was fired. He does receive an engineering credit for the drums in Harvester of Sorrow and Shortest Straw. Upon its release, the album peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 and charted for 83 weeks. That's pretty cool. It has been certified 8 times platinum. In 2018, it was re-released on vinyl, CD, and audio cassette, as well as a limited edition box set. The reissue charted again, reaching number 37 and 42 on Billboard's top album sales and top rock albums, respectively. All right, so now it's time to guess our favorite tracks. I am so bad at this, it's not even fun. But so I'm going to put my 3 guesses out, and then we'll go around the horn here. So for Eric, I chose Blackened. For John, I chose Shortest Straw. And for Tim, I chose Eye of the Beholder. John, what are your guesses, or do I need to come back to you?
God, you know what? I totally missed that we were doing this in the outline, but that's okay. We'll wing it because, hey, I'm going to say for you, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to go with Blackened. For Tim, let's see, maybe One. And I think I'm going to go with One for Eric as well.
All right, Tim, what are your guesses?
All right, for Eric, I'm going to go Eye of the Beholder. For John, I'm going to go Harvester of Sorrow. And for you, Dayton, I'm going to go Shortest Straw.
All right, Eric, what are your guesses?
I'm convinced that these are all wrong, but
I'm convinced mine are wrong too.
For Tim, I've got One. For John, I've got Injustice for All. And for Dayton, my note here is because I can't stand it, the frayed ends of sanity.
Yeah, you know what? I should have changed my vote to that for Dayton. I really should have.
Oh, I can't believe you don't like that song. Whatever. All right. Okay. So we're going to go track by track.
We'll get there.
I'm sure we will. God. We're going to go track by track. All lyrics are written by Hetfield except for the spoken word part on To Live Is To Die. That is credit goes to Cliff Burton. Side 1, track 1, Blackened, written by Hetfield, Ulrich, and Newstead. Eric, you start us off.
Okay, as an album opener, wouldn't have been my choice for the opener. The chorus is really good. My favorite part is I don't know if you want to call it like the bridge or what, the opposition, contradiction.
Right,
part.
yeah.
I found myself all week. I'd be at work walking down the hall or something going, opposition, contradiction. So it's definitely catchy in that regard. It's
Yeah,
a
I
solid
actually have
track.
that as one of the good parts of the song in my notes as well. Yeah, I like that too.
It's a solid track. I don't skip it. It's a tad too long though. And that just glancing through my notes here, I'm going to say that for every song on the album. So it's a tad too long.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to add with Blackened?
I would like to note this is the first fade in on the album.
Jesus Christ. John, you want to add something?
Tim's not wrong. And Eric, to Eric's defense, I read an interview with Hammett where he's like, all the songs on this album are too fucking long.
Oh, really?
Well, so
That's cool.
one of the reasons why the Black Album is so short is because after going on tour for so many shows, they realized that their songs are long. And so that kind of led to, and you know what? I get it, but it doesn't mean I want a 4-minute song, on every friggin' track later. It's,
I figured it was because they ran out of tape in California.
But I will say this, Blackened, I do like the track quite a bit. I do think like every other track on this album, it suffers horribly from production. Be a much better track if there was some thickness to it. There's no thickness to it. It's down flat. The guitars are muddy. And like Eric said in the intro, James's vocals are really substandard. I'm talking
on
from
an island. I swear to God, I'm on an island on this episode. I'm not. It's not that I'm not used to that, but I did not expect a lot of this.
It's not a bad track. But the track suffers from the lack of work put into it.
But see, I don't see it I don't understand how there is a lack of work considering they recorded for 5 months. I don't know. I just kind of don't. I mean, I will admit the production isn't the best, but I don't think I don't know. I guess I'm just not hearing it. Hear what you guys are
work
hearing.
on something for a long, long time, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good.
That's true.
I think these guys at this point in their career did not have the self-realization ability to edit their own ideas. Every idea was great and we must pursue it to its fruition. And
that's the producer's fault. The producer's job is to
I agree with that. The producer should have been able to put his foot down more, but I think with a strong personality like Lars and with James and those guys, they're going to assert themselves and push for what they want. And eventually you're either going to let them do it or you're not going to finish an album.
Yeah. I mean, I read a quote from Rasmussen that said when it came to the bass that James and Lars came to him and said, turn it all the way down. And then when you have it all the way down, lower it by 3 more decibels. And they'd worked what? This was their second or third album with Rasmussen?
Third.
Yeah.
Third. So yeah, he's going to let the kids run wild, Yeah,
but I find all that all that commentary funny considering when you get to the Black Album, they got a producer that told them what to do, and y'all want to crack on that one. So make up your mind.
I don't crack as much on the Black Album. No.
And I'm not cracking on the album. I'm cracking on the production of the album.
Right.
I think by the time they got to the Black Album, they had learned their own lesson that they were still trying to rebel against on this album.
All right. Interesting. All right. All right. So let's move on to the next track, And Justice for All, written by Hetfield, Ulrich, and Hammett. John, you start us off.
Again, it's a song that I like. I will say all the lyrics on this album, I read like James was writing them as they were recording this. So
Which is not uncommon though. I mean, that
it's not
happens.
uncommon, but it I don't know, there's a pattern to them. I've seen that, there's like opposition from the previous song, and contradiction, there's these little 2 or 3 word phrases, and the way that the lyrics are phrased, I don't know, it seemed very repetitive to me throughout the course of the album. And
you gotta have your mosh part.
I guess, and I'm all. I used to be all for a good mosh. I can't do it now. My back's shit, but and my knees hurt. But
everything hurts from the waist down.
Yeah, true.
I'm
still sore from the Metallica show in '93.
Again, I would like a better. I would love to hear this album with some bass on it. I would love to hear this album with a richer sound. It's just not going to happen. The guys are.
If I was Jason Newsted, I would hire some lawyers and sue to get those multi-tracks back out of storage and turn the damn fader up.
You can find mixes where people have gone in and recorded.
Yeah, there's actually something called Justice for Jason, where there's people done
I've heard
versions
of it.
of
I have not heard it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
If there is justice for all, then there will be a re-release of this album where it is remixed properly.
No, the guy said they won't do it because this captures that moment in time, and this is where they were in that moment in time, which I can respect.
And they, Lars and James both admitted that they were shitty to Newsted, and they should have taken more time after Cliff's death before they started doing this, because they took all their emotional problems out on him. So
there were definitely some unresolved emotional issues going into this one.
So
led to its outcome.
So let's just go ahead and agree right now. The production is not the best, so I really don't want to hear that again.
You're gonna.
Well, there went half my notes.
Yeah, this podcast just got 20 minutes shorter.
Well, maybe that's good, because if you can't think of something else to say, then don't fucking say anything.
No, I mean, but back to the track. I think I would have led the album off with this track. First song on the album.
I agree with that.
I was going to ask, because I was going to ask Eric about that, because he mentioned that with the Blackens. Okay, I don't disagree. I think that would have been a good opener. I mean, I like Blackened where it is, but yeah, I think that would have been a nice try. That's cool. All right. Anybody want to add anything? Any thoughts on Justice?
I like this track a lot more back in the day. I still think it's a great track.
Okay.
Once it kicks in, like the hard part, I find Lars' drum fills get grating pretty quickly, because it's like it seems like the vast majority of the fills are just snare drum. And I don't want to say anything about the mix of the snare drum, but that has got something to do with it. But it's a solid track.
It's still better than St. Anger's snare drum. Come on now.
I was just going to say, yeah. You got to at least give it that.
All right. Well, so I really do like, I like the drums on this track. I think there was some pretty good choices made by Lars on this one. I think if you notice the 3 albums, the title tracks for Ride Lightning, Master of Puppets, and this one, I kind of feel like each one kind of pushes the envelope a little bit more. And all 3 of them are epic, epic tracks. So personally, I kind of feel like this one's the most innovative of the 3. Like they were trying more things on this one. I don't necessarily know if it's the best of the 3, but I think it's the one they were taking a lot more chances on. Ride Lightning was awesome, and it has some really great stuff to it. Master Puppets has fantastic riffs in it, but this one I kind of feel like they were trying more things, and I think they knew that. So I really do dig this track a lot. All right, side 2, Eye the Beholder.
Doesn't matter what you see or doing what you read, you can do it your own way. If it's done, it's how I say. Independence limited, freedom of choice is made for you, my friend. Freedom of speech and words.
The intro builds it really well. Yes, it fades in. Okay, I'll beat you to it.
Fade in number 2.
I actually had the single for this one, which had Bread Fan on the other side. The track has a definite groove to it, which I really enjoy. Lyrically relevant then and now with some of the most important lyrics on the album, I think. Lyrics like "You can do it your own way if it's done just how I say." I love that. Freedom of speech is words they will bend. Freedom with their exception. This song just has so many great lyrics to it. And honestly, I think, despite what John said, I think this album has fantastic lyrics. I really do. I think this is probably the last. I get your point that there's some repetition. I get that, but I still think when you look ahead to, the Black Album and Load and Reload, and I just think this is the last time for many years that we got some seriously strong lyrics out of Hetfield. So I really do appreciate that. I think the middle of the section with the easy groove jamming along, the dual guitars are cool. Kirk's solo is musically this is whole section, the whole middle part is my favorite part of the song. Interesting fact, and it's just going to add more fire to Eric. Due to the changing time signatures, it is Lars Ulrich's least favorite song to play live. In fact, it hasn't been performed in its entirety since the Damage Justice tour.
You
So
can't.
I don't know.
Never heard him get to me because
Okay,
I agree with a lot of your takes on this one.
All right, well, go ahead.
It's my second favorite track on the album. So sorry, Tim, you got that one wrong. Like you mentioned, it's got a groove, and I definitely like the groove of this song.
Yep.
I too enjoy the lyrics in this song quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just a little too long.
Well, apparently, okay. See, I've already gotten Eric's guess wrong. It wasn't Blackened, so I'm already out. So, so is this okay? So, real quick, is this anybody's favorite song?
No.
Oh, well, shit. Okay, I got it wrong on Tim's too. Yeah, that's just about what I expected. Okay, anybody have anything else they want to add to "Eye of the Beholder"?
The riff on this song, I love it. I remember, if you asked me to play it right now, I could not because it has been so damn long since I even.
Yes, you could. It works good because it's so easy.
Well, and that's what I was getting ready to say was that I remember it being written out in one of the guitar magazines way back then. And it was one of those eye-opening moments for me that something that initially sounded a lot more complicated than it actually was, and being able to play that, and it was like, the heavens open, and the world was revealed to me in music, that there were things that I could play that sounded this awesome, that really weren't that complicated, but still had that kind of weight. And I loved having that newfound knowledge of the simplicity to sound complex. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I just love playing that riff sitting around practicing.
It was a nice try, Tim. Nice try.
There was a point in there somewhere. I'm not sure what it was, but
all right, John, anything to add?
You don't want to hear it.
What is it? A bit too long and the production isn't great?
I mean, again, you said not to repeat that. I won't repeat that. So
then you're skipping. Push the needle. Okay.
No, I mean, it's just, I don't know. The lyrics are pretty good on this song. And again, my problem with the lyrics is not the lyrics themselves on any of these songs.
Right.
It's the phasing or the phrasing or the way that he structures, or the lyrics are kind of forced to fit within the songs. Now, this one, I think they work really good because of the groove.
Okay.
They fit into that groove really well.
I honestly think "You can do it your own way if it's done just how I say" is probably the best lyric Hetfield's ever written. It's just such a cool line.
Yeah. It's up there. It's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next track. 1. Tim, you start.
It's fade in number 3.
It's not a fade in.
Yes, there is. There's a fade in on it. There's
the sound effect.
It's a sound effect from a fucking movie. That's not a fade in.
It fades in. It fades in.
It's faded in.
Also, points to John and Eric. This is my favorite song on the album.
And it's actually my favorite song on the album as well.
Whoa.
You're lying.
I'm not
You're-
lying.
You have to like one of the two last songs as your favorite.
No, actually,
favorite
well,
song.
actually, I'll be honest. I was debating last night. I sat and I listened to Eye of the Beholder and One on repeat for a while to make the decision between the two. And this one won.
Which song is the longest on this album?
To Live Is to Die by 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's not your
Sorry, by
favorite?
3 seconds. By 3 seconds.
Yeah, 3 seconds through.
Actually, no,
3
it's not.
minutes.
Shut up. by 3 seconds. And the funny part is I'm screwing up and I've only had water. Maybe I should have had a friggin' beer. I don't know. Anyway, no, actually, in my mind, To Live Is to Die is the only misstep in the whole album. So, but
We'll get there.
Yeah, we're not
we'll get
there.
there. All right, Tim.
Well, I just, my notes were, who doesn't remember waiting for this video to drop on MTV?
Right.
We were so pumped for the first air quotes real video from these guys, and they came out of the gate with one of the most talked about videos of all freaking time.
Darkness imprisoning me. All that I see, absolute horror. I cannot live, I cannot die. Trapped in myself, body my only fear.
I remember just sitting there and in your house, Dayton, after it was over, and we just sat there with our mouths open for a long time.
Yep.
This video affected me when it came out. And, you know, we talked about Wayne's World on the Wayne's World episode. There's the famous scene where they're headbanging to Bohemian Rhapsody in the car. And that is just an iconic moment from the era. And I would put the double bass bridge part in this song right up there with the most headbanged moments of all time.
Right.
I would blame this song in no small part for the state of my upper vertebrae today. That's just how hard it went.
Nice. So I can honestly tell you on the first listen to the album, this one was the song that impressed me the most. This was the one when the whole album was over, I was like, I want to hear that one again. It was just kind of, it hit me. But yeah, I love the beautiful melodic guitars during the verse against the such ominous lyrics. Is a great juxtaposition. The song has so many layers. It's as good as the first half is, the second half is just that much better. And because of this, of course, I did go buy the book, Johnny Got His Gun, and I read it a few times. So, all right. Anybody want to add anything on One?
Yeah, I got some notes.
He sounds so happy about it too.
It's a truly groundbreaking song. I remember it just blew me away the first time I heard it. And now if I never heard it again, I think I'd be fine. Not that it's not a great song, because it really is one of their best tracks, if not their best track. But I've just heard it so much.
All right, I get that.
Yeah, that's fair,
really great performance by everyone involved, including Lars. Let's
Holy
face facts,
shit.
though.
Oh my God.
It's a damn depressing song, though.
Wait, okay, hang on. It is
Well, yeah.
8:48 p.m. August 22nd. I'm just gonna
I mean, imagine how much more impressive it'd be, though, if he could pull it off live.
Oh. And it's gone. It's over.
It's too long too, but it's the only track that doesn't really feel too long, just because of how good it is.
All right.
Yeah.
John, anything to add?
Piggyback on most of what you guys said. Again, I'm not going to rip on this track because it is definitely one of there are probably a handful of songs that a non-hardcore Metallica fan would know, and this is one of them.
Right.
Song does set a very good atmosphere. It paints a very good, very bleak, but a very good and interesting picture.
Right.
And, like we've all said, this is probably the strongest example of songwriting that you're ever going to get out of these guys, in my opinion. Not that there's not other good stuff on later albums or previous albums, but every now and then, you manage to catch lightning in a bottle, and these guys did it on this track.
All right. All right. So recap. It was my favorite and it was Tim's favorite. Is that correct?
Okay, so I got one right.
Yes.
No, that's more than I got.
That's all I'm going to get right because
All right. Side 3, Shortest Straw, written by Hetfield and Ulrich.
Shortest straw, challenge liberty down by law. Living infamy, rub you raw. We turn right and through shortest straw. The shortest straw has been pulled for you. Pulled for you.
Go ahead, Eric.
It's my favorite track on the album.
Oh, wait. Did I get it right? No, I didn't get it right. God damn it.
Tim, no, I don't know. I don't think anybody got.
I didn't get it right.
That doesn't-
All right. That's cool, though. I mean, that's a good pick. It's a great
I
track.
think it's the closest on this album to early Metallica, which
I'd agree with
maybe
that.
is
All
why
right.
I like it the most.
All right.
It's 6 minutes and 35 seconds, so technically it's probably too. I mean, that's too long, really. But it's like I said, it's my favorite track on the album, so I have no problem with.
All right. All right. John, anything to add with Shortest Straw?
It's another one of these songs that on this album particularly that's got a really good hook to it.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of an earworm quality to it. And it doesn't go through all the complex time changes that some of the other, I mean, they're in there, but it's not to the extent that some of the previous songs on the album are.
Right.
So it's a little bit more listener friendly in that aspect. But I mean, again, other notes aside that I'm not allowed to talk about. Again, it is a good track. It is a good track, and it's one of the more aggressive tracks on the album.
Yeah.
Feeling tracks anyway. So
Right.
there we go.
All right. Yeah. It's one of the cooler main riffs on the album. So I definitely dig it. The lyrical progression and the pace is very clever. I like the building drum fills between the pre-chorus and the chorus. Every time there's something different, a little bit builds to it. So I thought that was a nice little detail. Good way to kick off side 3 or side 2 if you're on the cassette. But yeah, it's nice to know that Eric and I can at least agree on one song. It's not my favorite, but it's still a great track.
That's probably going to be where it ends. I'm just saying that as a little foreshadowing for what's to come.
Wow. Yeah. So anything to add for Shortest Straw, Tim?
I think I'm in the minority on this one. I don't love this one. There is one that I like a lot less, and we'll get to it. I don't hate this one. I think the riff and the chorus are good, but about halfway through it, I find myself kind of wanting to skip to the next song. I'm in the boat of Eric of a lot of this album that I think this one's a little too long.
Well, this is my favorite song on the album, so
Which it's okay. Interesting.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was Dayton's favorite, but I was wrong there.
Yeah. All right. So next track, Harvester of Sorrow, written by Hetfield and Ulrich. I still have my 7-inch single, by the way, for this one.
My life's a vocation, planting seeds of hate. I've loved turned to hate, dropped far beyond my fate. I feel you take this life that I forsake. Been cheated of my youth, you turn this life to true. Anger, misery, you'll suffer unto me.
John, you start.
Favorite song on the album.
Oh, did I get it right? No, I didn't. Damn it.
Again, I think
Wait, I got that one. Yes. Good, John.
I think this side of the album again does a better job of setting the mood. Does a better job of painting a sonic picture than some of the other stuff.
Okay.
I like this because it reminds me of, I don't know, it's got this horror or creepy or, I don't know, it's got this feel to it that I don't know. that sometimes they do a few oddball things and they tend to work, and that's what tend to resonate with me with this band.
Well, there's definitely it's a very haunting tone for sure.
Yeah.
If you listen to it on headphones, you can actually hear some ghostly voices in the background. It's pretty cool. So another groove for sure. So especially during the verse. Tim, anything to add for Harvester of Sorrow?
We kind of already talked about it earlier on when I mentioned seeing it on Van Halen's Monsters of Rock tour, and then getting to hear it again on the Damaged Justice tour with Queensryche opening. My note on that was, Queensryche had also just released Operation Mindcrime. So really, I mean, if you think about it, 88 into 89 was a damn good year for metal concerts.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. All right, Eric, anything to add?
For me, the album ends with the last song. I of the final
Wow.
4 tracks, I like this one the best, but it's like, so
Wow.
what? It's an okay track. I think it's kind of meh, really. But like I said, of what's left, it's the best.
Now,
Wow.
to me, and I was not as invested in these guys at this time. You get 3 were, but to me, this has the most. I don't know, for some reason, it reminds me the most of something Cliff would write. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely
just
it's the most commercially accessible song on the album.
Is it?
I think so.
I don't know
I-
if I agree with that, but again,
I think it's one of those, if you were to play this, or like Frayed Ends of Sanity or whatever, somebody who's never heard Metallica is gonna I think they're gonna lean towards Harvester of Sorrow, because it's not as fast, it's not as chunky, it's more of a mood song. So to me, I think that, and like I said, it's
okay.
it's kind of the teaser we get for the Black Album. And we all know what happened when the Black Album came out. It's one of the number 1 selling albums of the 90s. So, I still have my CD copy of that, by the way. Anyway. All right. Next track, Frayed Ends of Sanity, written by Hetfield, Ulrich, and Hammett. First of all, love the nod to Wizard of Oz. I think that's fun. Obviously, Eric is not going to agree with anything I have to say about this one. This is the best written song on the album. And I say that because it doesn't just follow 4 measures change, 4 measures change, 4 measures change. They shorten it here and there. They add something to keep it fresh. It's the constant tempo changes and the occasional beat changes gives the song such a frenetic feel that plays well with the lyrical content of Paranoia and Insanity. And I really think that's very cool.
Loss of interest, question, wonder. Waves of fear, they pull me under. Old habits reappear, fighting the fear of fear. Growing conspiracy, everyone's after me. Radiant of sanity, hear them calling.
I enjoy this song quite a bit. It's it's one I look forward to when I get to side 2. I actually am more of a fan of this one than Harvester of Sorrow. Harvester of Sorrow is fine. It's a pretty cool track, but this one I'm kind of like, yay, this one's next. So, but that's just my opinion. I mean, if you really sit there and listen, I like the chord progressions. I like the choices they made on this one. And I kind of feel like they were trying some different things, and I think it works. So obviously I'm probably alone on that one. That's okay. Anybody have any thoughts on Frayed Ends of Sanity?
Some of my favorite lyrics on the album.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, again, it's got that feel to it. It's very much, again, this is another one that I could see being a Cliff composition based on the title alone, because it's very Lovecraftian.
Right. Gotcha.
So that's why I dig it.
All right. Cool. Tim, anything to add?
I kind of with Eric. on this side of the album. I think Harvester of Sorrow is the last great song on the album. The last three don't really do a whole lot for me. I feel like this one kind of just comes off sounding to me a lot more like the riff salad I've mentioned, but it does go hard.
All right.
It's got an earlier, it's got a Kill 'Em All type vibe to it.
Interesting. All right. All right. Moving on to side 4, the instrumental on the album, To Live Is to Die, written by Hetfield, Ulrich, and Burton gets a writing credit on this one because it actually has a riff that he had written. And also the spoken word part is lyrically his as well.
When a man lies, he murders some part of the world. These are the pale deaths, which men miscall their lives. All this I cannot bear to witness any longer. Cannot the kingdom of salvation take me home?
Tim, go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off.
Fade in number 4. Just when you thought it was safe. To me, this one is a bad example of the riff salad. It just goes on, and I never feel like I'm listening to anything except them trying to figure out how to end it or how to get into the next section. This one just meanders. It's a skip for me.
So-
Anybody want to take a guess on how much too long this song is?
At least
5 minutes.
oh,
My
What's
notes say 9 minutes and 48 seconds.
I knew he was going to say something. Yeah.
Boring. I'm not sure if anybody's ever heard this entire track though, because it's impossible to stay awake for the whole thing. So I'm pretty sure nobody's heard the end of this song.
I do. I'm gonna.
You wake up and it's in Dyer's Eve.
This is the one track on the album that I just phase out of. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna defend it. There was good intentions because they took a riff from that Cliff had put down and they tried to do something with it. I agree, it's too long. It's way too long. I mean, I would much rather like 3 or 4 minutes do something else. But yeah, I'm not gonna defend this one. It's not the best song on here. I don't skip it because I do actually listen to the whole thing. But yeah, it's
Braver man than I.
Yeah, well, we've proven that before. But no, it is the only negative on the whole album in my mind. As far as the songwriting and everything, you're right, it meanders for quite some time. So
yeah, I think if you're gonna, capitalize on the fact that you're using the riff written by Cliff, then it needs to be a little bit more prominent. And there, like Tim said, there doesn't need to be, note salad going on around it. Build me a solid foundation around that riff, even if it's if the song is somewhat simple and doesn't have a ton of time changes and stuff in it.
Right.
And that'd be a more fitting tribute to the man, I think, than this ended up being.
I agree with that. All right. Last track on the album, Dyer's Eve, written by Hetfield, Ulrich, and Hammett.
Every thought I think you disapprove, you're in a dictator. Always censoring my every move, children of sin that are not heard. Tear out everything inspired. Innocence torn from me without your shelter. But reality, I'm living blindly.
All right, Eric, go ahead.
It's the shortest song of the whole album, and it's still too long. Pretty much an awful track. Does absolutely nothing for me.
Wow.
Just I don't even get to this song. So
All right.
that's pretty much all I got.
All right. Tim, anything to add?
My notes on this song mostly fall into the category of the things we have been forbidden to bring up again on this album. Um, but
I thought you were just going to say my notes say, see Eric.
someone should have lost their job for letting this go out the door sounding the way this does.
See, Tim, he only said I couldn't say that. He didn't say you couldn't say
No,
that.
I said y'all could just not say it again because I was already sick of it after the
Yeah,
second song.
Look, I mean, okay, this is thrash. If you put too much bass, low frequencies in your mix, it just turns into mush and you can't hear anything because you have heavy guitars, you have bass drums, and then your bass guitar all competing for those low frequencies. You've got to carve out space for each one. And I can understand why there isn't a ton of bass on it, but good God, you could have put it in somewhere.
You can have too much high end and everything just gets kind of clicky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a
Yes.
lot of that happens on this album.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's my rant on this one. I think this is an example of the production problems that this album has.
All right. Well, apparently I'm the only person on this podcast that likes this song. So it's a blistering song with very personal lyrics. I think it's a knockout punch to finish the album. For
I
years,
almost picked this one as your favorite song.
it's
I
not,
was wrong
but
either way.
I really do love it. So a couple quick stories. One, back to high school, the year this came out, I was having some, let's say, some issues, and I met with one of our teachers, Father Tedesco, who was a certified therapist, and I wanted to go talk to him about what was going on. And believe it or not, he actually quoted the lyrics from this song, which caught me off guard. And I was like, "How do you know this song?" He goes, "I actually do. I do lots of research and read lots of lyrics from heavy metal and hard rock bands." And he quoted lyrics from Black Sabbath and others. I'm like going, "Okay, you became one of my favorite teachers like right away." So I thought that was really cool. But for years, this song was not played live, and it has nothing to do with Lars. It was actually James could not do the vocals along with the chord progression. He had a hard time matching them up. So the first time it was played live in its entirety was 2004. So that was, and I actually did find it on YouTube, and I thought it sounded great, considering they had never played it all the way live before. So, all right. Anything else before we move on to final words and ratings? Okay. All right. Let's sum up this album, give it a rating, 1 to 5 records. I'm going to start with Eric because I'm kind of curious what he's going to say.
Well, I actually have written here that I feel bad because I know Dayton likes this album, and like I mentioned earlier, in revisiting this album and giving it, several in-depth listenings in preparation for this episode, I think I realized that I just don't like it as much as I thought I did. There was definitely a time where I ranked this right up there with Ride and Master, but it just doesn't hold up as well for me now compared to those. So I think every track could and should be shorter, like I mentioned. I would love to hear Anthrax do this album with, Joey
Oh,
singing.
hell yeah.
I just think it would be better. But as far as rankings, 3.1.
I can't get mad at him because of the 0.1. All right. John, what say you?
Well, I will say that, while I've kind of bashed the production and stuff on that, I'm going to take all of that. I'm going to take all of that out of my rating. Okay. It is by far the second best heavy metal album of 1988. Second only to Crest of the Knave by Jethro Tull. And the Grammy.
Oh, that hurts. That still hurts.
Too soon, man. Too soon for that joke.
I was watching those Grammys when that happened. I could not fucking believe that.
The Grammys. I will say that, again, I'd like to hear it with better production. I'd like to hear it with a more fuller and rounder sound. I'd love to hear some bass on that. Like Eric, this album doesn't high for me as it once did, but it's still a solid album. out of the quote unquote thrash days for this band, and I'm taking the first album out because I really don't like Kill 'Em All at all. That just
Okay.
I can't do that one. But out of Master and Puppets and this is my third favorite album. So
All
I'm going to
right.
give it. Eric gave it a 3.1. I'm going to give it a 3.09.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
What is
All
this?
right.
The Price is Right?
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, I will say this, as far as Metallica albums, this is my number 4 favorite Metallica album after Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Kill 'Em All. So that should tell you what I think about the remainder of the catalog.
Oh, you let that cat out of the bag a long time ago.
Yeah, that was no surprise. All right, Tim.
I like this one better than John and Eric. Overall I'm gonna give it 4 records. To Live Is to Die and the oft mentioned production problems keep it from being perfect for me. But this is still the album that started to put Metallica in the mainstream consciousness and set the stage for the Black Album to kick them into orbit. So I think it's gotta have merit on that. It doesn't hold up for me overall in my overall musical enjoyment, because I think while I had my thrash phase, the thrash phase did not last for me.
All right. So we reviewed Master Puppets last year, and that was a perfect score for me. This one is not quite there. I give it 4.5. As I mentioned, the only thing I dislike is To Live Is to Die, which I don't dislike. It just misses. So that's where I'm at with it. And it's still an album. I had the cassette, and later I bought the CD, and now I have the vinyl. So it's still a big part of the 80s. I have lots of memories revolve around it. I remember my oldest friend Chris, we were on vacation and we found this arcade where we were staying, and I had the tape in my Walkman, and I sat and played Karate Champ for an hour and a half, and all I did was listen to this album. So yeah, I just have lots of fond memories of it, and it still resonates for me. So that was a little more up and down than I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was fun. So actually, who got the most favorites right? Because I didn't get a single one.
I got one.
Well,
I think I got one too.
that was one more than me.
No, I didn't get any.
Jeez, that's kind of sad. It really is. So anyway, it was still fun. We'll keep doing it because it's just fun.
Oh no, wait, no, I did get John's. I got one.
Yeah, so
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, I got one, and then John and Eric both guessed mine, and I think that was the only correct guesses.
It was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Eric was just being spiteful and chose Afraid of the Sanity for me.
No, I honestly thought, I said, this is the kind of song I could see Dayton being into. So,
Which I
just
am.
pick it.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
forgot to write down the times because I definitely would have gone with the longest song on the album because what it always is.
That's not always
It
true.
has been.
It's not
It
always
has
true.
been.
I just
Every
proved
time
it.
we've done one of these, it has been.
There's precedent here.
Oh, fun. All right. So before we get out of here, I know John wants to mention a few of his upcoming adventures.
Yeah, if you guys don't mind and you want to come out and hang out with me and a bunch of other nerds and geeks and horror fanatics, I'll be at Horror Hound in Cincinnati, September 13th through 15th, followed by Cumberland Con in Cumberland, Ohio, October 13th and 14th, Cincinnati Comic Expo, October 18th and 20th, and Horror at the Ohio in Madison, Indiana, October 25th and 26th. So I got a busy schedule coming up.
You sure do.
Mm.
Fantastic. Yes, definitely check out his art on Facebook, JW Art Studios, The Art of John Wright. In fact, if you go to our Patreon, you can actually see one of his pieces of art that was signed by the cast of the Blair Witch Project. His Scooby-Doo Blair Witch Project mashup is actually the art for that episode. And check out the episode too. Anyway, so I've always, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, we'd like to thank our listener for spending time with us. This one was probably a little more interesting to listen to than some of our other ones, but hey, it's always fun. All of our social media information is in the show notes. Let us know what you think of this particular album and Metallica in general. If we see it, we'll share it on social media, and we'll also share it on an episode as well. If you want to help out the podcast, join our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get exclusive access to our bonus track episodes, which are album reviews that we couldn't get into our regular rotation, which include reviews of Fraley's Comet and Pantera's Cowboys from Hell. We also have deleted scenes episodes, which are films we wanted to talk about but couldn't get into the regular rotation. As I mentioned, the Blair Witch Project was our most recent. We also are covering Yesterday and Wizards, some upcoming episodes. So join us over there and help support the podcast. If you're unable to do that, rate and review the podcast. If we see the review, we will share it on social media and read it on an episode. And at the very least, share us with your family and friends and on social media. Get the word out, because more people is more better. Speaking of conventions, Sin City Con, October 11th, 12th, and 13th at Spooky Nook Sporting Complex in Hamilton, Ohio. I will be there. Disney John will be there. It's 3 days of board games, tabletop RPGs, bunch of nerds being nerds and having a good time. You can also check out the game that John and I have been working on for a while. It's pretty awesome. The art is great, and we've made some improvements, so come stop by and check that out. Upcoming episodes, October is quite busy. We are kicking off the month with our Walt Disney World Top 7. It's a new experiment we're trying, and we actually assign topics for each of the 7. So that's going to be kind of fun. Trying something new. Hope people dig it and check it out. Also, top 7 songs by fictional bands. That's going to be an interesting one and a lot of fun. These 3 characters are going to be back. We're going to do another Kiss episode. We are comparing and contrasting Creatures of the Night, Lick It Up, and Animalize. That should be very good. Don't Say No from Billy Squire, with special guests Lauren from the Beard Owl podcast and Russ from the Infectious Groove Music YouTube channel. And Tim will be back for that one as well. And then we have Underrated Bands, the sequel, where these 3 guys and a couple others will be back, and we'll get you to listen to some bands that you need to be checking out. Do yourself a favor, listen to more music, and remember, physical media is better than streaming. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.